The galaxy was wide and endless, filled with stars that stretched beyond imagination. Among them moved countless ships, empires, and civilizations, each proud of their history, each guarding their secrets. But there was one name whispered only in legends, one word that echoed through forgotten ruins and hidden archives: humanity. Most beings laughed when they heard the word, calling it a myth, a bedtime story for children. But others feared it, lowering their voices and watching the shadows whenever the name was spoken. To some, humanity was nothing, but to others, it was everything. And it was on one quiet night that the galaxy trembled, for the stars themselves had chosen. A signal erupted from the deep void, older than the oldest empire. It swept across star systems like a wave of light, carrying one single phrase in a language no living race should have understood. Seek humanity, the forgotten myth. No one could explain how it was understood in every mind. No one could trace its source. The Galactic Council gathered in fear and confusion, debating what to do. Should they ignore it, or should they investigate? The council chambers were filled with tension, leaders of dozens of species speaking over each other. Some warned that this was a trap, perhaps a trick from enemies. Others whispered of prophecy, claiming the stars themselves had spoken. And in the end, the council did not decide. The stars decided. From among the billions, one name was chosen, not by vote, not by power, but by the mysterious will of the signal itself. It marked him in a way no one could deny. His name was Kalen, a young explorer, ordinary in appearance, yet carrying eyes that always looked beyond the horizon. He was not a warrior, not a leader, and yet the signal wrapped itself around him like a crown of light. The council was shocked. Why him? They demanded. Why choose a single man from a lesser world, a world of traders and scholars, not warriors or kings? But the signal was clear. Kalen was chosen. He did not understand why. He had never asked for glory, never asked for destiny. All he had ever wanted was to chart the stars, to sail into the unknown and draw maps of places no one had seen before. But now the galaxy watched him, eyes full of expectation and fear. Some wanted him to succeed, others wanted him to fail. But all wanted to know one thing. Was humanity real? Kalen stood before the council, their voices echoing around him. He could feel their judgment pressing down like weight. But deep inside, he felt something else, something he could not explain. The signal whispered to him, a voice soft as starlight, telling him to go. He looked up at the council and said only one thing: I will follow the call. The chamber fell silent. Some saw courage in his words, others saw foolishness. But none could deny that he had been chosen. The stars had spoken, and their will was law. When Kalen returned to his ship, his crew looked at him with mixed eyes. Some trusted him, loyal to the bond they shared. Others feared what lay ahead, whispering that this journey would lead to doom. But Kalen did not waver. He walked the deck of his vessel, the stellar wind, and felt the engines hum like a heartbeat beneath his feet. He was not alone, for the stars had chosen him. And that meant something, even if he did not yet know what. That night, as the ship floated at the edge of the council's great station, Kalen stood at the viewing glass. The stars burned like fireflies in a sea of black. And then he saw it, a flash, quick and sharp, across the constellation of Lyran. For a moment, he thought it was a comet, but then the same whisper from before returned. Seek humanity. His heart pounded. His hands gripped the railing. He knew now that this was not just duty, not just an order. It was a destiny woven into the fabric of the cosmos. The next morning, the ship was prepared. Supplies loaded, coordinates entered, engines ready. The council gave him a final warning. If he left, there might be no return. But Kalen only nodded. He was already gone in his heart. He was already chasing the myth. The crew gathered at the bridge, tension thick in the air. No one spoke as the engines roared. The stellar wind shook, then leapt forward, stars streaking into lines as hyperspace swallowed them. The journey had begun. Kalen closed his eyes and let the hum of the ship guide him. Behind his eyelids, he saw visions. A blue planet surrounded by oceans, skies filled with strange birds, voices laughing, voices crying, voices human. He did not know if it was memory, dream, or prophecy, but he knew this: he had been chosen for a reason. As the ship vanished into the endless dark, the stars seemed to whisper once more, "Humanity awaits." And so the legend began. The stellar wind moved through hyperspace like a silent arrow, its silver hull trembling against the endless waves of light. Kalen sat in the captain's chair, hands tight on the armrests, eyes locked on the glowing tunnel ahead. He was still young, still uncertain, yet the weight of countless civilizations rested on his shoulders. The signal had chosen him, and the galaxy was watching. His crew whispered among themselves, their voices soft but heavy with fear. Some believed in him, calling the mission destiny. Others doubted, asking why the stars would select an ordinary explorer. Taryn, his second officer, shook his head as he worked the controls. "We are chasing ghosts, Kalen," he muttered. "Ghosts and nothing more." But Kalen said nothing. He could still feel the whisper of the stars in his heart, calling him forward. He remembered the vision he had seen, the blue world, the oceans, the skies, and though he could not explain it, he knew it meant something real. The ship trembled again, and the hum of the engines filled the silence. After days in hyperspace, they reached their first destination. The coordinates given by the signal pointed toward an uncharted system, a place where no maps existed. The crew stared at the dark void as the ship slowed. The stars outside bent back into points, and there it was, a lonely star, faint and dying, surrounded by fragments of shattered planets. The crew gasped. Ruins floated in space like broken bones, fragments of metal and stone drifting aimlessly. There were markings on the larger pieces, symbols carved long ago, worn by time. Kalen leaned closer, his eyes wide. The symbols were not alien to him. They were the same shapes he had seen in his dreams. Shapes he somehow knew were connected to humanity. "Impossible," whispered Lyra, the navigator. "These ruins must be millions of years old." Kalen touched the viewing glass, his breath fogging the surface. "They are waiting for us," he said quietly, though even he did not know if he believed it. The stellar wind moved closer, its lights cutting across the broken world. But as they approached, the ship's sensors screamed with warnings. An energy field surrounded the ruins, pulsing with unknown power. The crew panicked, some shouting to turn back. Kalen stood tall, voice steady, hold position. The ship hovered in silence, and then a new sound filled the air, an echo, soft and haunting. A transmission came through, ancient and broken. The voice was neither male nor female, neither alien nor machine. It spoke in words every crew member understood. "Seek humanity, the forgotten myth. Do not fear, do not turn away." The crew fell silent, their doubts swallowed by the voice. Kalen felt his chest tighten, the same whisper from the stars now clearer, guiding him. But not all were convinced. Taryn slammed his fist against the console. "It's a trick, a trap. No one should follow such madness." Others looked at Kalen, waiting for his command. For a moment, he wavered, doubt flooding him. But then the vision returned. Oceans, skies, laughter. And he knew he could not stop. "We go forward," he said, voice steady. The ship pushed through the energy field, trembling as if the universe itself resisted them. Lights flickered, alarms screamed, but then silence. They were inside. What they saw took their breath away. Floating before them was a massive structure, a station the size of a small moon, hidden inside the ruins. Its surface glowed faintly, covered in markings that matched the ones in Kalen's dreams. "This is no ordinary ruin," whispered Lyra, her voice shaking. "This is a message." As they moved closer, the station stirred. Lights flickered across its surface, doors sliding open as if welcoming them. Kalen felt his heart race, his hands trembling. He turned to his crew. "Prepare for landing." The stellar wind descended into the open bay, metal grinding against silence as the landing gear touched ancient stone. The crew disembarked cautiously, their steps echoing in the hollow chamber. The air was thin but breathable, the walls glowing with strange light. And in the center of the chamber stood something that froze them all. It was a statue, tall and proud, carved from white stone. The figure was unlike any alien they had seen. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, and eyes that seemed alive, even in stone. Kalen's breath caught in his throat. "It's human," he whispered. The crew stared, their disbelief melting into awe and fear. Terran shook his head violently. "It proves nothing. Anyone could have built this." But Kalen stepped closer, his hand brushing against the cold stone. The statue's eyes glowed faintly, and a voice filled the chamber. "Chosen by the stars, you are the seeker. Humanity awaits your path." The crew staggered back, weapons drawn. But Kalen stood firm, his heart pounding with certainty. This was no coincidence, no trick. The stars had chosen him for a reason. The voice spoke again, softer this time. "Beyond this place lies danger. Beyond danger lies truth. Will you continue?" Kalen closed his eyes, the weight of destiny pressing against him. He opened them again, gaze firm. "Yes," he said, "we continue." The chamber shook, doors sliding open to reveal a corridor stretching into darkness. The crew hesitated, some whispering of curses, others of miracles. But Kalen did not look back. He stepped forward, the statue's glowing eyes following him as he walked into the unknown. The myth was no longer a whisper. It was alive, it was waiting, and the journey had only just begun. The corridor stretched into shadows, each step echoing against walls carved from ancient stone. The crew moved cautiously, their lights cutting thin beams through the dust-filled air. Symbols lined the walls, glowing faintly, shifting as though alive. Lyra traced one with her fingers, eyes wide. "It changes when I touch it," she whispered, "like it knows we're here." Kalen walked to the front, heart racing. Every whisper of the air felt like a secret. Every glow felt like a warning. The voice from before was silent now, leaving only the hum of old machines buried deep in the structure. He felt watched, though he could not see by whom. Behind him, Terran grumbled, hand resting on his weapon. "This place is cursed. We should leave before it swallows us whole." Before Kalen could respond, the ground trembled. The walls pulsed with brighter light, and a door at the end of the hall slid open with a sound like thunder. Beyond was a chamber vast and dark, filled with rows of towering pillars. Each pillar carried strange markings, and between them floated small orbs of light, drifting like fireflies. The crew stepped inside, their breath taken away. The orbs moved as if curious, circling around them before retreating to the shadows. Then one of the pillars lit up, and a holographic figure appeared. It was not human, nor alien they knew, but something in between, tall and ethereal. The figure's voice echoed in every mind. "Turn back, seekers, humanity is forbidden. Humanity must remain lost." The crew froze, fear crawling through their veins. Terran raised his weapon at the image. "See? It's a warning. I told you this is madness." But Kalen stepped forward, his voice steady though his hand shook. "Who are you? Why do you fear humanity?" The figure tilted its head, eyes glowing like twin suns. "Because humanity is not what you believe. They're not saviors. They're not myths. They're destruction." The chamber darkened, and visions filled the air. Worlds burning, empires falling, shadows of human armies spreading across galaxies. The crew gasped, some crying out, others covering their eyes. The vision ended as quickly as it began, leaving only silence. Kalen's chest tightened, his thoughts spinning. Was this the truth, or another lie meant to turn them away? He looked at his crew, fear in their eyes, doubt in their hearts. But deep inside, the whisper of the stars remained, steady and calm. "Humanity cannot be only destruction," he said softly. "There is more to their story." The figure's voice thundered again. Leave now, or suffer their fate. Before anyone could move, the chamber shook violently, alarms screaming through the station. Outside, the stellar wind sent frantic signals. Enemy ships had arrived. Kalen rushed back toward the ship, his crew stumbling after him. Through the viewing glass, they saw dark vessels emerging from the void, sleek and sharp, their hulls marked with the crest of the Dominion. The Dominion was one of the galaxy's oldest empires, ruthless and proud. If they were here, it meant one thing. They too knew about humanity, and they wanted the secret buried. The stellar wind's engines roared to life as the crew scrambled aboard. Enemy fire cut across the bay, explosions rattling the ancient walls. Kalen shouted, "Lift off!" and the ship surged upward, tearing through debris. Laser fire streaked the void, the Dominion ships chasing with deadly precision. The crew panicked, shouting over one another. Terran cursed, "We'll never outrun them." But Kalen's eyes locked on the ruins below. He felt the whisper again, stronger now, guiding him. "Head for the star shadow," he commanded. Lyra hesitated. "The dying star? That will destroy us." "Trust me," Kalen said, his voice firm. The stellar wind dove toward the fractured star, enemy fire following close behind. The dying sun pulsed with unstable energy, waves of light breaking across the void. The Dominion ships slowed, wary of the danger. Kalen pushed his vessel closer, the hull screaming as heat wrapped around it. Then, out of the chaos, something appeared. A hidden passage, a corridor of darkness cutting through the energy storm. Kalen gripped the controls, steering the ship into it. The Dominion ships fired once more, but the storm swallowed their blasts. Moments later, silence returned. The stellar wind drifted safely in the hidden path. The crew collapsed in relief, some laughing nervously, others still trembling. Kalen leaned back, sweat on his forehead, but his eyes steady. He knew this path was no accident. It had been hidden, waiting for them. The stars were guiding him still. But as the crew celebrated, a soft voice filled the cabin. It was the same voice from the ruins, calm and haunting. "You cannot run forever. Seeker, the truth of humanity will break you." Kalen stared into the void ahead, his jaw tightening. Perhaps the voice was right. Perhaps the truth would break him. But he would not stop, for the myth was no longer just a whisper. It was a destiny he could not escape. And in the shadows of the dying star, unseen by the crew, another figure watched. An ancient AI buried deep within the ruins, its glowing eyes fixed on Kalen. It spoke softly to itself, unheard. "The chosen has begun his path. May he endure what humanity left behind." The journey had only grown darker, and the real danger had just begun. The hidden passage carried the stellar wind far beyond the dying star, its engines humming softly as if afraid to disturb the silence. Outside the viewing glass, the storm of fire and debris faded into stillness, revealing a stretch of space untouched by charts. Kalen stood at the helm, eyes fixed on the void. The whisper of the stars was quiet now, but not gone. It waited, patient, like a teacher letting a student take the next step alone. The crew was restless. Some celebrated their escape from the Dominion, while others trembled at what they had seen. The vision of burning worlds haunted them, the holographic warning echoing in their minds. Terran paced the deck, anger sharp in his voice. "We run into traps, we run into enemies, and now we hide in passages built by ghosts. Kalen, this path will kill us all." But Kalen shook his head slowly. He could not explain why, but he felt the path was meant for them. Every danger, every escape. It was not random, it was designed, and as the ship glided forward, the coordinates lit up on the console. A new system revealed itself, a world waiting at its center. When they arrived, gasps filled the bridge. The planet below was broken, its surface scarred by ancient wars. Yet structures still stood tall. Cities of stone and metal stretched across the land, half buried in dust and vines. Ruins that spoke of greatness long lost. "This world is dead," Lyra whispered, "but it once lived like ours." The stellar wind descended through a thin atmosphere, its hull rattling as winds scraped against it. The landing was rough, but the crew managed, stepping out into a silence older than memory. The air was breathable, though dry and thin, carrying the scent of dust and forgotten ages. Kalen walked first, boots pressing against cracked stone, his eyes tracing walls that reached toward the sky. He felt small, as though he stood inside the shadow of giants. The ruins stretched endlessly, wide avenues lined with statues that had crumbled but not disappeared. Their faces were worn, their shapes alien, yet each bore marks that matched the symbols from the station. Lyra bent down, brushing dust off a broken tablet. Her eyes widened. "These symbols, they match the ones in your dreams," she whispered to Kalen. "Humanity was here," Kalen said softly, though doubt twisted inside him. They moved deeper into the city, their voices echoing against hollow walls. The silence grew heavy, not empty but expectant, like the world itself was holding its breath. And then they found it, a chamber beneath the ruins, sealed by stone doors heavier than any machine could move. Yet as Kalen placed his hand upon the surface, the doors groaned and shifted, opening slowly. The crew stumbled back, eyes wide. "How did it open?" Taryn demanded. "What did you do?" "I don't know," Kalen admitted. "It just listened." Inside, the chamber was filled with light. Strange crystals glowed across the walls, casting soft blue shadows. And at the center stood an altar. Upon it rested a single device, ancient yet untouched by time. Kalen stepped closer, the whispers returning stronger than ever. His heart pounded as he reached out, fingers brushing against the object. The device came alive, lights racing across its surface, and a projection filled the air. Images of humans, not myths, but real beings, walking across the same city they stood in now. The crew gasped as voices filled the room, laughter, speech, the sounds of life. But the images shifted quickly, showing war, destruction, and silence. The city burning, its people gone, the ruins left behind. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. They lived here, and they died here. Kalen clenched his fists, staring at the fading vision. This was no simple legend. Humanity had shaped worlds, had walked among stars, and then had been erased. But why? As the projection dimmed, a new voice spoke, not from the device, but from the walls themselves. "You were chosen to see, but knowledge comes with danger. Leave now before you are hunted." The crew shivered, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on them. Kalen's voice shook. "Who hunts us? Who erased humanity?" The answer came as a rumble, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Dust rained from the ceiling, stones cracked apart. Outside, the air filled with thunder as ships descended from the clouds. The Dominion had followed, their dark hulls blotting out the pale sun. The crew scrambled, rushing back toward the ship. Explosions tore through the ruins as Dominion forces landed, their soldiers pouring into the streets. Kalen's heart pounded, his breath ragged, but even as he ran, his eyes stayed fixed on the device. He knew it was not just history, it was a key, and if the Dominion wanted it silenced, it meant the truth was far more dangerous than he had imagined. The stellar wind lifted off, fire chasing its wings. Dominion ships followed, but Kalen clutched the device tightly in his hands. The whispers filled his mind once more, steady and firm. "Do not fear, seeker. The truth awaits. Beyond danger lies destiny." As the ruins disappeared beneath the clouds, Kalen swore he saw movement in the shadows of the city. Not Dominion soldiers, not ruins collapsing, but figures, tall, human figures, watching him from the broken streets. And then they were gone, like smoke in the wind. The galaxy wanted humanity forgotten, but the ruins had spoken. Humanity had lived, humanity had fought, and humanity had vanished. The question now was why? And Kalen knew with fear and wonder. That the answer would change everything. The stellar wind raced through the void, its engines burning bright as Dominion ships chased from behind. Explosions shook the hull, alarms screamed, but Kalen held the device tightly against his chest. He could still feel the whispers from within it, guiding him, steadying him. This was more than just a relic, more than a memory. It was a key, and the galaxy feared it. Shields failing, Lyra shouted, hands flying across the console. Terran cursed, slamming his fist on the controls. We can't outrun them forever, Kalen. Give up the device. Throw it into space before it kills us all. But Kalen shook his head, his voice sharp with determination. If they want it gone, then it means it holds the truth. I will not throw it away. The ship twisted through an asteroid field, rocks spinning around them like blades. The Dominion ships hesitated at the edge, unwilling to risk the chaos. The stellar wind dove deeper, scraping against stone, sparks bursting from its hull. When silence finally returned, the crew breathed heavy sighs of relief, though fear still burned in their eyes. Kalen set the device on the table in the war room, its surface glowing faintly. The crew gathered around, their faces lit by the shifting lights. This thing is cursed, Terran growled. Everywhere it goes, death follows. No, Kalen replied firmly. It's not a curse, it's a door. The device responded, as if it had waited for his words. Light filled the room, brighter this time, showing not just images but voices, histories, truths buried in time. The crew gasped as scenes unfolded. Humans building ships larger than moons, leading fleets of alien allies, standing at the center of councils that stretched across galaxies. For a time, they had been the guardians of peace. But then the visions twisted. Kalen's heart sank as he saw human armies burning worlds, their power unmatched, their voices turning from leaders into conquerors. The galaxy kneeling, not in loyalty, but in fear. The projection ended with silence. The crew stood frozen, the weight of what they had seen pressing down like stone. Terran's voice broke the quiet, harsh and bitter. You see, they were not heroes, Kalen. They were tyrants, destroyers. The galaxy erased them for a reason. Kalen's chest ached, torn between the visions. Both sides were true. Humanity had been saviors, and then they had been monsters. The question was why? How could they rise so high and fall so far? Before he could speak, the device flickered again, showing words across its surface. They were betrayed. The crew leaned closer, eyes wide. Betrayed, Lyra whispered. By who? The words shifted again. By those who feared them, by those who erased them, by those who still live among you. The room grew cold. The implication was clear. Some of the great powers of the galaxy had not only fought humanity, but conspired to erase their memory. Kalen's fists tightened. The Dominion, the Council, perhaps even more. This was not just history, it was conspiracy. Suddenly, the ship shook violently, lights flickering. Lyra checked the scanners, her voice trembling. They found us again, Dominion ships incoming. Kalen grabbed the device, holding it close. We cannot run forever, he said, his voice calm. But we can learn. The ship twisted back into hyperspace, leaving the asteroids behind. The crew looked to Kalen, their fear slowly replaced by a fragile spark of belief. Lyra spoke first, her voice soft but steady. If what we saw is true, then the galaxy has lived a lie for centuries. And lies always fall, Kalen replied. That night, as the ship drifted through hyperspace, Kalen sat alone in his cabin, the device glowing faintly on the table before him. He closed his eyes, letting the whispers flow into his mind. Visions came again, but this time softer. Children playing in fields, humans smiling, sharing meals with alien allies. Peace, laughter, hope, and then fire, betrayal, silence. Kalen opened his eyes, his jaw set. The galaxy had taken everything from humanity, had buried their memory. But humanity's story was not over. It lived in ruins, in whispers, and now in him. As if to answer his thoughts, the device pulsed brighter, words appearing once more. Seeker, the truth is forbidden, but it is yours to carry. Will you protect it? Kalen placed his hand on the surface, his voice quiet but firm. Yes, I will. The device dimmed, its whispers fading into calm silence. Kalen leaned back, eyes heavy but heart burning with fire. He did not know how long the journey ahead would be, or what dangers it would bring, but he knew this. The truth of humanity could no longer be hidden, and if the galaxy feared it, then it meant humanity had power worth remembering. The stellar wind sailed deeper into the void, hunted, pursued, but unbroken. The myth was no longer myth. The truth was dangerous, and Kalen now carried it. The stellar wind drifted through the endless dark, its engines low, its crew silent. Every soul aboard carried the weight of the visions, the secrets they had uncovered. Humanity was not gone, not erased completely. Their truth was buried, hidden by powers still alive. And now, Kalen carried that truth like a torch, and every torch drew shadows. But fear worked like poison, and not every crew member could bear the weight. Whispers spread across the ship, whispers of betrayal, whispers of turning back. Terran's voice was loudest among them, sharp and angry. We are being hunted, starved, and broken, all because one man listens to voices in his head. He slammed his fist against the wall, his eyes burning into Kalen's. Your stars lie, your visions lie, and soon we will all die for them. Kalen stood firm, though his heart trembled. I was chosen, he said simply, his voice quiet but unshaken. The stars chose me. The device chose me. I cannot turn back. Terran spat on the floor, his hand hovering near his weapon. Then you've chosen our graves. That night, betrayal struck. As Kalen rested in his quarters, alarms blared through the ship. He rushed to the bridge to find chaos. Terran and a handful of crew had taken control. Weapons raised, eyes hard with desperation. This ends tonight, Terran growled. We are leaving the path of ghosts and lies. We are throwing that cursed device into the void. The crew stood divided, some raising their weapons in defense of Kalen, others lowering their eyes, too afraid to choose. Kalen stepped forward, calm though fear stabbed his chest. If you throw it away, you throw away the truth, he said. You throw away everything we've risked, everything the stars have shown. Terran's weapon rose, aimed straight at Kalen's heart. Then you die with your truth. Before the shot could fire, the ship itself groaned, lights flickering, walls trembling. The device on the table pulsed violently, casting waves of light through the chamber. Every mind was struck by visions, sharper and clearer than before. Not of war, not of destruction, but of hope. Humanity standing with alien allies, fighting not for conquest, but for survival. Human voices crying, not in rage, but in sacrifice. The vision showed betrayal, yes, but also love, unity, courage. When the light faded, silence filled the bridge. Weapons lowered, eyes wet with tears, hearts shaken. Even Terran stumbled, his breath ragged, his weapon slipping from his hand. He whispered broken, I saw them. I saw who they were. Kalen placed his hand on the device, his voice soft but firm. Now you know why I cannot turn back. But the trial was not over. The Dominion had tracked them once again, their ships tearing through hyperspace to surround the stellar wind. Alarms blared. Lyra shouted coordinates, the crew scrambled. Kalen took the helm himself, guiding the ship into a storm of fire. Explosions ripped across the void, light flashing against the hull. The crew fought not just for survival, but for faith. Every shot, every maneuver, every desperate breath was no longer only for themselves. It was for the truth they now carried together. At the edge of destruction, the device pulsed again, sending out shockwave. Dominion ships faltered, their systems scrambled, their weapons silenced for a moment. It was not enough to win, but it was enough to escape. Kalen pushed the engines to their limit, the stellar wind diving into a hidden wormhole revealed by the stars themselves. The ship trembled, groaned, screamed as reality bent around it. And then silence. The crew collapsed into their chairs, their breaths heavy, their faces pale but alive. Terran sat in the corner, his eyes lowered, shame burning across his face. He had betrayed Kalen, and yet Kalen had not killed him, had not cast him out. Instead, Kalen placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice calm. We all doubt, we all fear, but faith is not about never falling. It's about rising again. Terran looked up, his eyes wet, and nodded slowly. The division within the crew was not gone, but something stronger now tied them together. Not fear, not loyalty to one man, but belief in the truth they had seen. The stars had tested them, and though scarred, they had endured. Kalen stood at the viewing glass, staring into the endless void. The whispers returned, softer now, filled with warmth. You have chosen faith, seeker. Now the final path awaits. Kalen closed his eyes, his heart steady. The trial was not just about survival, not just about escaping enemies. It was about proving that even in doubt, even in betrayal, even in fear, the path could be walked. And now, with the crew behind him, scarred but united, he was ready to face what lay beyond. The wormhole opened into a light brighter than any star. Kalen's eyes narrowed, his breath steady. The final part of the journey had begun, and in the silence of the stars, humanity waited. The wormhole spilled the stellar wind into a place unlike any the crew had ever seen. They emerged not into a star system, but into a vast cradle of light, a sanctuary hidden beyond maps, beyond time. Nebulas glowed like rivers of fire, and at the center floated a single world, untouched and perfect. Its oceans shimmered like mirrors, its skies alive with streaks of color. It was not ruins, not death, but life. The crew stared in silence, off freezing their voices. Kalen gripped the railing, his breath caught in his chest. The whispers were no longer faint, no longer distant. They roared inside him, warm and clear. You have arrived, seeker. The path is open. The ship descended into orbit, the planet's surface filling their view. Forests stretched across continents. Mountains rose like giants. Rivers carved silver paths. But scattered among the wilderness were structures, gleaming and intact. Not ruins, not abandoned, but waiting. Lyra's voice shook. It's impossible. This world is alive, untouched by war, untouched by time. They landed near one of the structures, a great hall of stone and light, its walls etched with familiar symbols. The air was rich, pure, carrying the scent of life. Kalen stepped out first, his boots pressing against green grass instead of broken stone. His heart pounded as the doors of the hall opened without a touch, inviting them inside. The chamber glowed with golden light, tall pillars stretching toward a ceiling carved with constellations. At the center stood an altar, larger than the one they had seen before, and upon it rested a crystal, burning with inner fire. Kalen approached slowly, the whispers guiding his every step. When he placed his hand upon the crystal, the hall exploded with light. Visions filled the chamber, surrounding every crew member. They saw humanity not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as both. They were complex, flawed, capable of building peace and causing destruction. But above all, they were free. They had defied chains, broken empires, and dreamed beyond the stars. And because of that, the galaxy had feared them. Empires had betrayed them, erased them, buried their name in lies. But humanity had not died. They had hidden, waiting, until the stars chose someone to awaken them. Kalen fell to his knees, tears burning his eyes. The vision shifted, showing humans alive, deep beneath the planet's surface, preserved in stasis, their bodies glowing faintly as though sleeping in light. Lyra gasped, her hands trembling. They're not gone, she whispered. They're here. They're alive. The crystal's voice filled the air, calm and eternal. Seeker, you are the bridge. Humanity cannot return through war. Humanity cannot return through fear. only through hope, through unity, through those who choose to believe. Kalen's chest tightened, his voice breaking. Why me? I am no hero, no warrior. Why was I chosen? The lights softened, wrapping around him like a mantle. Because you do not seek power, you seek truth. Because you carry not the hunger to rule, but the courage to endure. Humanity needs not kings, but bridges. The crew stood behind him, their faces lit with awe and fear. Some wept, some smiled, some simply stared.